What did the Buddha know about the law of karma and rebirth? Welcome back, everyone, to Mind Podcast. The law of karma and rebirth is one of the foundational teachings in Buddhism, yet it remains a complex and often misunderstood concept. For some, karma and rebirth may seem superstitious and outdated. Buddhism's teachings on karma and rebirth raise challenging questions. If the Buddha only taught about anatta non-self, then karma and rebirth might not require debate. However, he emphasized that all things are without a permanent self, yet still subject to karma and rebirth. So if there is no self, what reincarnates? And if there is no self, how can anyone have karma? How does karma transfer from one life to another? Karma suggests that our lives are predetermined, lacking free will. If so, why did the Buddha encourage us to improve our lives? As I said, karma and rebirth are deeply nuanced issues. Life may appear more mysterious to you after watching this video, and your perspective may change entirely by the end. Welcome to the original teachings of the Buddha on karma and rebirth. In Pali, the word karma originates from action or deed, but here it specifically refers to intentional actions. Actions with intention behind them, encompassing thought, speech, and deed. Let me illustrate with an example. If someone asks you for directions to the nearest bank and you kindly guide them, you've performed a good deed, a good karma on your part. But later, you find out that the person went to the bank to rob it. Now, was your karma good or bad? Then you read in the news that this particular bank was notorious for laundering money gained from corrupt practices. So did the robber commit a good act? Was his karma good? Pause for a moment to jot down your thoughts in the comments. The answer might surprise you. Even though you directed a robber to the bank, you were unaware of his intentions, and your genuine intent was to help. Thus, you created good karma. The robber, though he accidentally exposed the shady dealings of the bank and led to uncovering other criminals, still acted with a harmful intent, creating negative karma. This shows that while the outcomes of our actions involve numerous external factors beyond our control, it's the intention within that defines karma as good or bad. The Buddha also taught that karma is created not only by actions, but also by speech and thought. These are the three channels through which intention is expressed in the world. Our thoughts, words, and deeds are like musical notes forming a chord. This chord is the key to enlightenment. We must harmonize all three elements. If one is off key, the harmony is lost. The process of enlightenment involves our entire being. Outward expressions of wisdom and compassion are meaningless without internal alignment. What the Buddha knew about the laws of karma and rebirth. The laws of karma and rebirth are fundamental teachings in Buddhism, but are complex and often difficult to grasp. For some, karma and rebirth may seem superstitious or outdated. In Buddhist tradition, karma and rebirth pose challenging questions. If the Buddha had only taught about anatta, non-self, there would be little to question. However, he emphasized that all things are without a permanent self and are still subject to karma and rebirth. So if there is no self, what is it that reincarnates? And if there is no self, how can anyone bear karma? How is karma transferred from one life to another? Karma might suggest a predetermined life lacking free will. If this were true, why would the Buddha teach us to strive to improve our lives? As mentioned, karma and rebirth are complex issues. Life might become more mysterious, and your perspective might shift after exploring this teaching fully. In Pali, the term karma originally meant action or deed, specifically intentional actions, those made with purpose, including thoughts, words, and deeds. For example, if someone asks you for directions to a nearby bank and you kindly guide them, you've performed a good deed, good karma. However, suppose you later find out that person robbed the bank. Is your karma good or bad? Then imagine the bank was found to be laundering money obtained through corruption. Does that make the robber's actions good? Despite helping a robber unknowingly, your intention was to assist, so you created good karma. The robber, even though he inadvertently exposed wrongdoing, still acted with harmful intent, creating negative karma. This shows that, although the outcomes of our actions are influenced by factors beyond our control, it is the intention that determines good or bad karma. The Buddha also emphasized that karma is created through our words, thoughts, and actions. These three channels express intention, much like musical notes forming a chord. This chord is key to enlightenment, requiring harmony among all three elements. The process of enlightenment transforms us entirely. Outer expressions of wisdom and compassion are meaningless without inner harmony. If we are filled with anger, desire, or envy, we may deceive others and even ourselves, but we cannot deceive the law of karma. If karma is indeed a law, who enforces it? The answer is emptiness. There is no one to punish bad karma or reward good karma. The Buddha illustrated this with a simple analogy. A stone thrown into a river will sink while oil will float. This is the natural law, unchangeable. Karma functions similarly. The Buddha taught karma as a fundamental principle of reality, like gravity. We can understand and harness gravity or suffer because of it, but our concern is not why gravity exists, but how to use it for our well-being. The same applies to karma and rebirth. The Buddha observed directly how beings are reborn according to karma at the moment of his enlightenment. He saw existence as a continuous cycle of formation and rebirth, driven by cause and condition. Each new generation is shaped by the intentions and actions of previous generations, meaning rebirth is determined by past karma. The Buddha called this cycle of rebirth samsara. Upon death, accumulated karma forms a new being within one of the 6 realms of samsara. Good karma leads to rebirth in higher realms, while bad karma results in rebirth in lower realms. The Buddha taught that karma and rebirth are not mysterious or mystical. They are natural laws that can be observed. However, one must refine the mind to be highly sensitive to see this truth, something very few people can achieve. In the Noble Eightfold Path, the Buddha offers guidance on enlightenment. Once, while residing in Savatthi, a young man named Subhatodhyaputa asked the Buddha why humans are so different, why some live long while others die young, some are healthy, others frequently ill, some are beautiful, others less so, some are wealthy and others poor, some intelligent, others unwise. The Buddha explained that all this is due to karma. All beings are the inheritors of their karma. Karma determines the differences among sentient beings. For example, those who kill or harm other beings without compassion will be reborn in a lower realm, or if they are reborn as humans, they may have a short lifespan. Conversely, long life is the result of nonviolence and compassion. People who cause suffering to others may be reborn in an unfavorable realm or with illness if they return as humans. Those without anger or resentment are reborn with attractive features, while those with a kind and respectful demeanor are born into high social standing and favorable circumstances. Generosity and charitable deeds lead to wealth, while a lack of generosity results in poverty. Wisdom arises from seeking knowledge from wise teachers, while neglecting such pursuits leads to ignorance. In this way, karma and rebirth explain the diverse conditions of life. The Buddha emphasized that our actions, words, and thoughts collectively shape our existence. The law of karma operates impartially, without need for a judge. It simply follows natural law, shaping our future based on our present intentions and deeds. The Buddhist concept of interdependent origination and self-regulating consciousness in a universe without beginning or end offers a natural framework for understanding this interconnectedness. The Big Bang Theory, which suggests a beginning, appears to challenge this view, but the singularity at the Big Bang's origin disrupts familiar physical laws. Ultimately, science and spirituality complement each other, not contradict. Both are essential for humanity and the future. The Buddha's teachings provide a natural spiritual framework that supports modern scientific advancements. As science continues to explore, we find that the wisdom of 2,500 years ago remains relevant. These insights could eventually help humanity break free from its self-imposed limitations and illusions, leading to peace, happiness, and inner harmony. What the Buddha knew about the law of karma and rebirth. The Buddha taught that the root cause of birth is ignorance. In the 12 Links of Dependent Origination Sutra, he stated that ignorance gives rise to actions, karma, and together with ignorance is desire, another root of karma. All negative actions stem from desire, while good actions in the world arise from 3 positive roots: non-greed, non-anger, and non-delusion. They are still considered karma as long as ignorance and desire remain. Actions that stem from true spiritual intention, however, are free from karma because ignorance and desire have been entirely uprooted. Venerable Buddhaghosa, in the Vishuddhimagga, wrote, "Who commits karma, who receives its results, There is no one at all. Only by understanding this is true discernment achieved. Buddhism distinguishes between two types of reality: conventional reality and ultimate reality. Conventional reality consists of things designated by name, while ultimate reality is the subtle truth. For example, what we call a table is a designation of conventional reality based on how it appears. But on a more subtle level, it is just a collection of forces and qualities. In the same way, the names we use for gender, beings, or objects are merely conventional terms, and these forms constantly change. Thus, Buddhists do not believe in any permanent, unchanging essence. They separate the actor from the action, the doer from consciousness itself. So where is karma? A scholar once wrote that karma resides in the mind, yet few understand this idea. Karma encompasses all experiences, sensations, and influences absorbed by an individual. The subconscious mind retains not only all experiences, but also basic emotions and tendencies. Karma is not stored in a single location in the mind. In the ever-changing human organism, there is no single repository for mental or spiritual content. Every experience, emotion, or inclination, whether saintly or animalistic, depends on the continuity of each individual's mind-body relationship and its changes. Karma thus resides within the constant changes of the mind and manifests whenever conditions align. Long ago, King Milinda asked the venerable Nagasena, "Where is karma stored?" Nagasena replied, "Great king, karma cannot be said to reside in any fixed place within the changing mind or body. Rather, it manifests according to the conditions of the mind and body, just as wind and fire have no concrete location." The process of rebirth. The term rebirth is somewhat misleading. It suggests a self that dies and then is reborn elsewhere, implying a transfer of identity from one life to the next. However, the Buddha taught that the idea of a separate self is an illusion. Therefore, there is no self that is reborn, for there was no self to begin with. Instead, karmic energy spreads throughout the world, leaving imprints that give rise to what we perceive as self or sentient beings. Understanding this is both challenging and crucial. Imagine throwing a stone into a pond. As the stone hits the water, ripples appear. At first glance, it may seem that the ripples are moving across the surface, but on closer inspection, you see that what appears as movement is simply water rising and falling in waves. The peaks and troughs seem to move as a wave, but in reality, they are a continuous process of energy transmission and transformation. Similarly, karma is not an object but a process, a sequence in which each event causes the next and is itself caused by the preceding one. The language we use may mistakenly frame this chain of causation as a solid entity, when in fact it is an ongoing process. The Buddha described our experiences as combinations of the five aggregates, skandhas: form, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. These aggregates, like the red, green, and blue pixels on a screen, blend in varying proportions to create all experiences. Together, they form what we perceive as the self. The Buddha taught that karma is what creates the differences between beings. In other words, the distinctions between you, me, and a Shiba Inu dog are not due to us being separate entities, but because we are different patterns of the five aggregates animated by karma. This concept reveals that our identities are ever-changing compositions influenced by the effects of karma, reflecting the profound interconnectedness and impermanence within all existence. The importance of mindfulness at the time of death. In our previous example, we noted that waves do not spontaneously appear on water. They arise when a stone impacts the water, imparting its energy into it. Similarly, karma doesn't spontaneously manifest. It is created by our body, speech, and mind. If we remain in ignorance, driven by greed, anger, and delusion, without cultivating mindfulness in our actions, speech, and thoughts, we will remain imprisoned in the cycle of samsara. Now you can see that rebirth is not the transfer of an entity from one life to another. Rather, it is the transformation of karma. As the Buddha taught, our mind and senses are essentially the result of our past karma. Through our actions, speech, and thoughts, we generate karma, both positive and negative, which accumulates until our physical body weakens and the five aggregates, skandhas, dissolve. When this happens, karma radiates outward and continues in a new realm, creating a new being composed of the five aggregates, determined by the accumulated causes and conditions, or karma. A noteworthy aspect of rebirth is the importance of the final thoughts at the moment of death, which can influence our next life. The final thought is often related to the most prominent experiences of our current life. For instance, if a person committed harmful acts, that memory might resurface at the end. Conversely, if someone engaged in virtuous deeds, such as building temples or practicing moral discipline, these memories might dominate their final thoughts. In short, whatever is strongest in the mind will likely emerge, or otherwise, recurring habitual thoughts will appear. For example, if we frequently harbor anger and resentment, those emotions will likely arise. On the other hand, if we cultivate love, compassion, and a willingness to help others, these positive thoughts will emerge. If no specific mental habit is present, then whatever external stimuli are present at the time of death may influence our final thoughts. Hearing is said to be the last sense to fade, which is why many religious traditions conduct prayers or chants near the dying to encourage peaceful and positive final thoughts. If positive thoughts dominate at the time of death, it can lead to a favorable rebirth. This does not erase other karmic results, but it does give weight to the final moments, which can influence rebirth. Thus, reminding those nearing death of their past virtues, such as their generosity, successful parenting, or kindness, is considered highly beneficial. People often have regrets or sorrow as they approach death, yet only recently has society recognized that death is an important part of life. Even in Western cultures that don't believe in rebirth, much attention is given to welcoming a newborn, yet few consider the importance of the final moments of life. Hospices and palliative care centers now focus on easing fear and anxiety in those nearing death. Another factor that affects the near-death experience is modern medical advancements, where clinical death can sometimes be reversed. Some individuals who have come back to life report near-death experiences. Dr. Raymond Moody, for example, has documented these occurrences. Common aspects in these accounts include a bright light, a sense of freedom from the body, and a peaceful state. Many people see themselves lying on a hospital bed and feel themselves moving toward a radiant light, fully conscious of the process. Most describe meeting a source of light, free of religious symbolism, but shared across various cultures. These experiences have brought renewed importance to the time of death. Among the 5 daily reflections the Buddha advised, one is the certainty of death. The Buddha emphasized that our final moments are incredibly important, so it is wise to reflect on them now, not waiting until the end of life. Our wholesome thoughts and actions related to compassion, kindness, and equanimity create a habit that we can carry into our final moments. Starting these practices now ensures not only a favorable rebirth, but also a sense of peace and happiness in this life, giving us better conditions for continued practice. For instance, if we are reborn in a supportive environment, it will be easier to engage in meditation and spiritual growth. Conversely, being reborn in poverty or in a society that doesn't support meditation can make spiritual practice difficult. Waiting until old age or near death to cultivate right thinking is unwise. Right thinking includes being aware of our mental states through mindfulness and attention. Our time on earth is brief, even if we live to 70 years, which is not long. We can view ourselves as guests here, participating in life as performers, always ready to take a bow. This realization may make life more challenging, but it also highlights the value of our brief existence and the importance of cultivating a peaceful mind and compassionate heart every day. Living in the present and mindful action. At first, we may feel stage fright, uncertain whether we'll perform well and whether we'll receive applause. If not, we feel disappointed. Recognizing ourselves as mere guests on earth, performing a play, is a proper view. However, waiting for applause is a wrong view. If we know we've done our best, we don't need anyone's applause. The only thing that matters is our sincere intention, aimed at kindness, benefiting not only ourselves but also those around us. By not focusing solely on ourselves, we can truly care for others. We should not neglect studying the teachings and practicing meditation, as only when we reach a certain level of progress can we help others. Otherwise, acting in ignorance can lead to unfavorable outcomes. If we obsess over our next rebirth, we are living in a dream, as the one creating karma now is not the one who will reap its results. The connection between actions and their results is tenuous and can be disrupted. For instance, someone who has accumulated much bad karma but creates significant good karma in the next life may never see the fruition of past negative karma, and vice versa. Take the example of Angulimala, who killed 999 people, yet became an enlightened arhat after becoming a disciple of the Buddha. His karma didn't have the opportunity to bear fruit in a monastery dedicated to spiritual practice. Conversely, the Venerable Moggallana, although also an arhat, was attacked and killed due to past negative karma. Thus, we cannot precisely map karma to life circumstances, as the person who inherits our karma may be different from who we are now. The present moment, however, is what matters most. Doing good brings immediate happiness and peace in our mind, often benefiting others around us as well. There's no use in dwelling on past karma or future karma, as we cannot change the past or know the future. Worrying about them is unnecessary. Only the present moment is real. The past is like a dream, and the future has yet to come. When the future does arrive, it becomes the present. Tomorrow will never come. It's always today. We can only live in the present. If we fully focus on each moment, we will naturally practice mindfulness. This removes any doubt about impermanence, which becomes apparent. This clarity enables us to let go of all attachments and clingings. We can reflect, am I using each moment well? If we created negative karma in the past, we can quickly shift to good deeds, making this past a valuable lesson. Without this quick responsiveness, impermanence may carry us away so fast that we lose sight of what's meaningful. Clinging to past thoughts, views, and opinions is futile. We hold on to the body and mind, believing they are stable and permanent when they're not. Each moment passes by, which we can easily observe using a digital clock to witness each second ticking away. Have you ever watched the clock for 5 minutes to sense the fleeting nature of those moments? Once gone, the past is forgotten, except for a few notable events. This clearly shows that we are mere streams of experience without inherent substance. Mistakenly, we think our existence is real and substantial, living based on this misconception. Life is like a play, a creation where actors wear costumes, recite lines, and believe it to be reality. We want the theater to keep its lights on forever, but that's impossible. Each of us has personal struggles that cannot be overcome through negligence or ignorance. Change happens only through shifting our perspective. Our intentions create karma, originating from the mind. If we can't master our minds, it's difficult to avoid creating negative karma. The mind is prone to dwell on unwholesome thoughts like, I dislike this, I can't stand it, I'm afraid, I'm bored, all expressions of anger. Desires like, I want this, I must have that, are forms of craving, all rooted in the mind. Few people are willing to examine their own minds, thinking it's too hard. But they forget that creating negative karma burdens them even more with heavy consequences. Rarely do we experience inner enthusiasm, the sign of joy from within. Instead, most people are weighed down by negative mind states, not by external circumstances. Observe your mind. Each thought precedes speech and action. We can't speak without thinking first, nor act without the intention to do so. Sometimes it seems instinctual, but that doesn't mean it wasn't in the mind first. It simply means we lack mindfulness. Our mind is the most precious asset we possess. No gold or gem compares, as the mind holds the seed of enlightenment. If we fail to use it wisely, we're like someone burying treasure in the dirt. Unfortunately, this is common, as many aren't guided properly. Let us make use of this treasure by cultivating mindfulness, kindness, and wisdom in every moment. Embrace the present, as it's the only time we truly have. Preserving the precious mind. When we realize that we possess this precious jewel of the mind, we protect it so that it remains untainted, shining brightly to foster wholesome karma. The Buddha taught that it is not the action itself that holds the most importance, but the intention behind it. Even generosity can stem from an impure motive. For instance, if our intention in doing good is to accumulate merit for future gains, it is selfish. However, if it arises from compassion for those in need, it is ideal. Nonetheless, even if generosity is motivated by self-interest, it is still better than withholding, as the act of giving involves letting go of possessions, which creates good karma. The quality of karma is determined by the mind and its purity through meditation. If we practice meditation diligently, we gradually gain insight into the workings of the mind. Some may find satisfaction in just a bit of peace, which is itself a positive step. Observing the mind during meditation trains us to observe it in daily life, offering us more chances to create wholesome karma. If we feel tired of the endless cycle of gain and loss, praise and blame, success and failure, joy and suffering, we must resolve to let go of attachment. This resolve is supported by meditation but goes beyond it. Meditation helps us identify and eliminate seeds of greed and anger within ourselves. This process brings clarity to the mind, enabling us to recognize these seeds and find ways to counter them. Our duty in this life, as beings with all senses intact and the fortune of hearing the true teachings, is to protect our minds and realize its pure, radiant nature. With such a mind, we can progress on the path, discovering that no one is truly the master of this mind. Through this video, I hope you gain a fresh, positive perspective on life. With dedication to practice, we will eventually reap the fruits of peace and happiness.